Welcome back to Real Talk Texas. Today in the studio, we've got Lydia Player of Ebby Holiday Realtors. She's our expert today to talk about what's going on in our local market here in North Texas, in the real estate market. And before the break, we started to talk about people that have pre-qualification letters and things like that, and how much time it takes to close a loan. And one of the things I tell my clients as a mortgage professional is the earlier you can start, the better in getting yourself pre-qualified or pre-approved. And I really believe you should get, when you have that initial meeting, it's best to meet with me face-to-face versus emailing and scanning and faxing and all those things. If you can have your checklist, what you need to bring in, if you bring in a complete checklist, everything that you need to our office, we can sit down and we don't have all these dribble, I need page 3 of your bank statement, because we had your bank statement and we got it right, or we showed you how to download it. We had a client in our office yesterday and he said, I don't have my bank statements with me. And I said, do you have access to your account online? He says, yes. So I said, go ahead and log in. You can go and click on statements and you can download a PDF that has all pages. I love that because they're not faxing me page 1, 3, 5, 7 and saying, hey, I faxed you my bank statements. So those are the things that, believe it or not, in a mortgage world, which is an over-documented at this point way of getting people their loans approved. It's really it sounds, a lot of people complain and say, well, we've got this crazy world of mortgage now. You've got to have a root canal to get a loan. A lot of people get that confused with, we used to be able to fog a mirror and have a credit score and then you get a loan approval.
Yeah.
Those were, as we call, the good old days.
Pendulum has swung the other way.
It's the other way now. But what we try to do is make it very simple. Here's your checklist of what you need. Bring us the full checklist. Then we won't have to keep coming back and asking and asking and asking.
Yeah. And as an agent, if I'm selling a property and you bring us an offer, I need that letter. I need to know you're going to be able to close on it. And we look at the, if you're getting a loan, there's a financing addendum attached to your contract when you make an offer. And we're looking at those terms.
Is that financing addendum fairly new? I mean, in the last 5 years, it's always been there?
No, it's been there. It's been there.
Okay.
And we're looking at those terms. If you've put on there that you're trying to qualify for a 30-year loan at 3.5% on a $900,000 house, I need to talk to your lender first.
10% down.
Yeah, I need to talk to your lender first before we're going to execute that contract, because that's the get out clause for the buyer. If the buyer can't qualify for the terms that are on that financing addendum, then they can get out and get their earnest money back, walk on down the road, and you've been off the market for 3 months while they've seen if they could get a loan. And as a seller, we're not willing to take that risk, nor should we. If you're going to bring us an offer and you want us to take our house off the market and put it under contract and start packing our stuff up and put it in a moving van, you better be able to close, and we need to feel comfortable that you can. The seller should not have to take that risk.
And are you seeing a lot of that nowadays, Lydia? Are you seeing pre-qualification letters from different maybe internet lenders or big banks or banks, local banks, mortgage brokers that aren't holding up?
Oh, we're seeing way too much of it, actually. I've had personally in some of the deals I've done this year where we've gone through the option period, we're pending, we're 3 days ahead of closing, and suddenly the lender says, oh, we can't make this deal happen. Sorry, we're not going to be able to close. And either they say, we can't do it, or they say, well, it's going to take 2 more weeks. You've got a seller with their stuff on a moving van going across country, or that's getting ready to close on the one they're trying to buy, and it's going to have a domino effect, and everybody gets mad. And guess who they get mad at? It's the buyer, because it's the buyer's fault. They picked that lender. The lender has no consequences. If they pre-qualified you for a loan and then they say, oh, we can't do it, tough luck. It's the buyer's fault. It's not my fault, and the bank doesn't have any responsibility. They're not a party to the contract. And so the seller is going to look to that buyer to perform. Either they're going to take your earnest money and put their house back on the market and sell it to somebody else, or you're going to need to delay the closing, and it's probably going to cost you money. You're going to need to pay that seller something for the inconvenience and the financial ramifications it's had to them to delay that closing. And it's ugly and it's serious, and we've had it happen. And it's happened with the big box lenders. I haven't had it happen with any kind of a local lender. It's been one of the big ones, and there's a couple of them that are doing very poorly, and any agent can tell you who they are.
Okay. Well, we don't have to name names, but hopefully my bank's not on that list.
You're not on that list.
Okay. And so, one of the things that I stress, when I mention, bring everything in, what we do in our office in Dallas is we do 2 steps. The first step is pre-qualification. We can do that over the phone. We get, run your credit. You tell me what you have in the bank. You tell me what you make, all those things verbally. And in our pre-qual letter says we've only gotten these things verbally, and so it's very much a soft
it
pre-qualification.
says you've looked them over, they're living and breathing, and they look okay.
Right. And so we've got them credit qualified, all those things. And then the next step is, that's if they need one like today, they need a pre-qualification letter. What I try to do is make sure that they promise to get me that checklist of everything that we need within 24 hours. And the faster our buyers can do that for us, then we can take them to the next stage, which takes about a week to 2 weeks. The next stage is fully underwritten and approved. Not pre-approved, but approved. So they're approved to buy a house. The only thing they're missing is the collateral side of the loan file, which means the house appraises for what the purchase price is. The title is clean. You've got a good survey. Those things take about 2 weeks. That's when I talk to my clients, I tell them, I can make you a cash buyer if you give me 2 weeks and give me all the information up front. And the reason we do that is, one, it helps them in the negotiation. And if you get a letter, Lydia, that says, okay, here's a pre-qualification, there's a standard letter in Texas that gives the lender. It says
you called the guy up this morning when you were thinking about buying a house, and now you got the letter to me this afternoon.
Exactly. And that's what most people provide, because there's a standard state of Texas laid out letter that you have to provide for that. That's a big difference. There's a big difference in that letter versus one that says you're approved. And so we have an approval letter that we send out and say, this is credit approved. And we've already gone through and asked them, okay, what was that large deposit that wasn't a payroll deposit? We've got that, tracked down. And there's certain things that we have to do in the market today that are different. But it's really not as difficult as some people make it. At least I don't feel like it's that way.
But it says you're serious. It says to me, as a seller, it says this is a serious buyer. They've gone through the steps they need to do to make sure they can afford to buy this house and get it closed.
We've verified the funds. As a seller now. So if you got a letter that had an approval with it versus one that had a pre-qualification letter, and there were maybe $5,000 difference, you might go with my letter, right?
Which one's more likely to close?
Okay, so that's why you become a cash buyer, and then you can actually save a little bit on your offer if you've got that pre-approval letter. And so the other part that I always like to make sure that our real estate agents and our listeners know is that we also have the ability to do something called a make sense mortgage. And with all the tightening of guidelines, and they're continuing to tighten, I don't care what you read. I mean, I've heard some publications come out and say lending standards have loosened a little bit. Oh, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it from Fannie Mae. I haven't seen it from Freddie Mac. I haven't seen it from my jumbo resources. We to sell a loan on the secondary market, it is you have to know what you're doing, and you have to have a very clean and organized file that's documented fully, and that's there. If I can't get someone approved on that, I will call that our A-paper loan and our A-paper rates. There used to be a thing called subprime lending. Subprime lending was double-digit interest rates, 2 to 4% and fees, and then an extra, there would be a prepayment penalty, and it was 2 to 3 years. And it was a good place to take somebody that had money, but they just couldn't document things, or maybe they had bad credit because something happened, or maybe, unfortunately, sometimes they were perpetual,
couldn't afford it. Yeah.
Perpetual bad credit people. And so they paid a premium for that, and there was a higher risk associated with that. Well, the good news is our Make Sense Mortgage is nothing like that. It's very reasonable in rate and fees, and it's a 5-1 ARM or a 3-1 ARM, and it gives them an opportunity to go in there, cure that thing. Maybe they were 6 years out of bankruptcy, and the rule is 7 years. So maybe we can get them in that house a year earlier on an ARM, which is almost at market rates right now, and put them in the house and then refinance them once that's cured. We call that parking. We park them on our own money. They make their payments to us, and then we get them in the house and make that happen. So if you're listening and you have that situation where maybe you've been declined, but you've got 20% to put down, or at least 10% to put down, pull out your cell phone. Maybe I can help you out. I can take a look at it. If it makes sense to me, I can present it to our board and see if it makes sense to everyone else. But you want to pull out your cell phone, put in this number, 817-925-2546. That's 817-925-2546. And that is our show here. Just send in the word, make sense. And then I'll get a hold of you, and I'll listen to your story. We'll look at your documentation, see if it does make sense for you. I can give you some other examples. We just closed a loan yesterday with a client actually Friday. We closed it with a client, and he had a business in another state. He had several businesses. He was a professional, and he did want to file bankruptcy. His credit scores were 538, but he had sold his home in that state, was coming in. He was putting 40% down on a house, was turned down by several lenders, came to me. We sat down. I listened to his story. I helped him relay that story into a letter of explanation as to what happened to him, and he has closed his business last December. But so everything on his credit was business related. It made sense for us to do that loan for that couple and get them into a house.
People
so we
don't
did
realize how hard it is to get a loan right now. I've just gone through the buying process myself, and I was really shocked at practically needed a blood sample. And I like to tell them, if you're a brand new professional athlete moving here to Dallas, and say you're with the Cowboys or the Stars or the Mavericks or somebody, and you can sign a contract for $5 million a year, we can't get you a $50,000 loan.
But I can. So
you could.
If
but
you
I mean,
are
because
a
you
new
don't have a
professional
2-year
athlete coming into the marketplace,
you don't have a 2-year work history with the Dallas Cowboys
that's
or something.
okay. I'll look at the
you
contract.
don't fit the criteria. If you don't fit the mold, then it's very difficult to get a loan, and you've got to go do something like that. You've got to know the mortgage lenders.
Well, if you are a professional athlete, pull out your cell phone, put in this number, 817-925-2546. Say, I'm an athlete, I need a loan. Get a hold of us. You've listened to Real Talk Texas. Lydia Player in our studio today. Thanks for coming in and listening. Next week, we're going to have a really good show. We're going to talk about home inspections and why you need that, and if you want to become a home inspector, how to do that. So you want to tune in next week and listen to Real Talk Texas, KLIF, AM 570, News and Information.